Hi everyone, Christina here. Before we get into today's card video, I wanted to let you know about a brand new class over at onlinecardclasses.com called Wildcard. Jennifer McGuire and I have teamed up with Kelly Marie Alvarez from Lawn Fawn to teach a really fun class all on interactive cards, cards that have wow factor, different folds, different interactive elements. And the best part is that for every single card in class, there is a video. We're going to break down the steps of these seemingly complicated cards and show you guys how to create them in a really simplified way. So it's a really fun class. Hope you guys will join us. You can register over at onlinecardclasses.com. So now I'm going to jump right into today's card. I'm using two stamp sets from my favorite things, Cool Cat and Get Down to Business. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of combine these two and make sort of a nerdy card and use that greeting that says talk nerdy to me, but then also have a cat and have the cat wearing glasses. So I'll bring in a stamp set for Mama Elephant when it comes to the cat. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping a ton of these office elements or office imagery onto this watercolor paper. This is some Saunders watercolor paper, and it's a really nice, thick, textured cold press watercolor paper. The ink I'm using today is dark chocolate dye ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is a waterproof ink once it's dry, so it's the perfect ink for doing some watercoloring. So I've stamped all those office elements just kind of randomly on that watercolor paper. And then now I'm taking the cat stamp. There's a back of the cat and also the front of the cat. So I'm going to stamp both. And I stamped the cat's face first, and then I brought in that stamp set from Mama Elephant that I was referring to before. This is the Page Huggers stamp set that you guys saw me use last week. I remembered those cute glasses that I put on the mouse, and I thought they would be adorable on top of this cat too. So the glasses were a little bit off center and they were really bugging me, so I decided to stamp the cat one more time with the glasses. So now I'm going to do some die cutting. I've already die cut this red circle out of some Schoolhouse red cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm using two different circle dies from Simon. This is from their nested circle die set. And there's one circle that's small and one that's just slightly larger. So I used the slightly larger circle die to cut out this red circle. You can see that smaller die off to the side there. I'll be using that in a little bit. But I took the paw stamp from that My Favorite Things Cool Cat stamp set, and I stamped it all over that circle in some of that same colored ink as the cardstock. So this was Schoolhouse red ink. So now I'm going to use my Mission Gold watercolor palette from Magello, and I'm going to do a very sort of monochromatic color scheme on all of these little tiny elements. I'm using a size, I think it's a size 4 paintbrush from Silver. This is a Silver Black Velvet size 4 round brush, and I'm using just a couple colors. This color that I'm using right now is a dark brown, and I'll be bringing in some sepia in a bit, and then also a little bit of yellow ochre. I really wanted the entire background area on this piece here to be more monochromatic. I didn't want it to compete with the image of the cat, and I mostly didn't want to do that because this is a pretty busy pattern, and I didn't want it to overwhelm the rest of the card. So as I was painting this, it really made me think of Louis Vuitton bags. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with those, but I love them. I wish I had some and had more, but I don't. So anyway, I really, really love their whole motif with different tones of brown and gold with pops of red. I think it looks really, really classic, and the colors look beautiful together. So that's what I'm going to do for this card. I'm going to add some little pops of gold. This is really going to bring those different office elements alive and give them a little bit more life. And then I'll go ahead and bring in some of that red when I start assembling the card. So that's why I chose the Schoolhouse red cardstock and the same colored ink for that circle that I die cut earlier. So I'm almost done painting all of these little elements. I'm going to move on to the cat. So I considered coloring the cat a completely different color, maybe even coloring it like an orange tabby cat or something. But then I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I thought, you know what, when I send this card to one of my friends or family, they know my cats for sure, which are Sophie and Daphne, and they are silver gray tabby cats. And so I thought it would be really fun to paint this cat as a silver gray tabby cat as well. So I'm just using some really pale grays and bringing in a little bit of a darker gray for some shading and also on those stripes. And then I shaded around the face. So for the glasses, I'm going to bring in a really, really pale blue, and that is going to just give the glasses just a slightly different shade, and it's going to really aid in the fact that these are glasses, not sunglasses. So here's that smaller circle die I had off to the side earlier. I'm going to cut a circle in the front of this watercolor piece for the cat to be peeking out of. So I wanted to get that sizing right and make sure that the circle wasn't too far down to the bottom for the cat to stand on the inside of the card. So I went ahead and ran that through my Big Shot machine and cut a circle out of the very front of the card. Now, I thought about putting this watercolor piece onto a card base, but then decided that I was going to have the entire watercolor piece be the front of the card. So you'll see me create the rest of the card here in a minute. In the meantime, I've used the Talk Bubbles die set from Simon Says Stamp. I'm not even sure if this is still being sold, but if not, there are quite a few dies out there that have kind of talk bubble shapes. So I'll link those down in the description below or in the supply section. So here's the card base I was talking about. I just cut another piece of cardstock, and this is cut to about 4 3/4 by 5.5 tall. So I'm just creating the same exact size of card, but with 1/2 inch on the side for a flap so that I can adhere all of this together. So I also wanted to mention that I didn't tape down this watercolor piece because I was using a spare piece of watercolor paper that was already cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5. So that's why I didn't tape it down to my board, which is what I usually do. Thankfully, there wasn't too much warping while I was painting, but just in case any of you were wondering why I didn't tape it down to a board, because that's usually my kind of routine when I'm painting with watercolors. So I just adhered down that red circle piece to the inside of the card. And now I'm going to cut out this cat. This is a bit of fussy cutting. There is a die set that coordinates with the Cool Cat stamp set for my favorite things, but I don't have the die set. And I also thought it would be nice to have a really clean edge. So I used a black brush tip marker to paint the edges of those cut images. That gives them a more finished edge. And then I ran the back of the cat through a Xyron Create a Sticker machine. This is going to put adhesive all on the back surface of this cat. It's going to make sure that it sticks and adheres really well. And it's also a really super sticky ink. I wasn't sure how it would apply to the watercolor paper, but it did pretty well. And then I was able to take the front of the cat and line it up with the back of the cat's head and then kind of smush those two together. And I'll still be able to slide that cat inside the card with his paws just sticking out just a little bit, and then press down with my fingers to adhere that cat to the inside of the card. So now we have this cat that is on both the front of the card and on the inside. And now I'm going to work on that greeting area. So I'm taking the Talk Nerdy to Me stamp from that Get Down to Business stamp set. I'm going to do a bit of stamp surgery and cut these two apart. I can always mount them back together on a block if I want them on one line again later. I'm going to use that dark chocolate ink from Simon Says Stamp once again. And I'll first stamp Talk Nerdy and then stamp To Me right below that. I then took a ground espresso marker from Tim Holtz. This is a distress marker, and I added some faux stitching or dashed lines right around the inside edge of this Talk Bubble die. It does have an embossed line inside, so I just followed that embossed line. I then put some foam adhesive on the back of this Talk Bubble, but only at the top because that's the part that's going to be touching the front of the card. And then I press that down onto the front of the card right above that die cut circle and the cats. And that pretty much finishes the card. I'm going to add one more detail. I'm going to add some glossy accents to the eyeglasses on the cat. And I thought about doing this before I adhered the cat to the card, and I sort of wish I would have done it because then I wouldn't have had to worry about the front of the card flipping up and then having an uneven surface while the glossy accents dried. But that was easy enough to get around. I just put an acrylic block on the corners to hold it down, and you can see all that gloss and shine on the cat's glasses. I'm going to flip that over really quick, not too much because I want to make sure it dries. But that is the card for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys on Saturday for a special blog hop for Simon Says Stamps Stamptember celebration. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.